is continuing to work all of that as they get ready for liftoff at 11:03.
Very good. And the count now going under 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Hey guys, button 25 here.
As the activity begins to pick up on the countdown net.
Hey guys, button 25 here. What launch of Solar Orbiter. That was Flight 411.
FTS was armed, Flight Termination System, which our friends at the United Space Force will follow the launch from this evening.
Oh Jesus.
Space Force. 115. 110.
Vent valves locked.
Locking the vent valves will bring the booster tank and
Minus
tanks
1
up to
minute.
flight pressure, getting everything ready for launch this evening. We just heard from the range officer that the range is green and ready to move forward.
The range is green. That is a big step moving forward. Everything's clear. Basically mean there is no nothing to impede launch, nothing out there in the water, nothing out there in the air. T-minus 30 seconds as we count down to the liftoff of an Atlas V rocket.
25.
Status check. Go Atlas. Go booster dark. Go solar orbiter.
There you heard the final status check for booster
Let's
Centaur
wait
and
for the last 10
spacecraft.
seconds.
Everything is go.
And so here we go. T-minus 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
Ignition.
2, 1, 0.
Liftoff.
And liftoff of our solar orbiter, an international collaboration to give us new images and a better understanding of our life-giving star. Listening now, you hear the voice of Patrick Moore, ULA's launch commentator.
Now 25 seconds into flight. Chamber pressure on the SRV looks good. Engine operating parameters on the RD-180 also look good.
Good report so far. Atlas V
Yeah,
beginning
35
to pitch over.
seconds in, the vehicle is completing the pitch over maneuver. Now 41 seconds into flight.
45 seconds into flight, everything is looking good.
We heard that the RD-180 engine is operational.
RD-180 throttling down slightly as expected, and engine response looks good.
I'm going to pull those engines down for just a little bit as we
Vehicle's now passing
anticipate
Mach 1,
max Q.
Atlas V is now supersonic. Vehicle's now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure.
At maximum dynamic pressure is the period of maximum mechanical stress on the rocket because it's reached its highest velocity and resistance created by the Earth's atmosphere. Made it through and they're throttling back up.
And standing by for SRB burnout. And we have burnout on the solid rocket booster. Atlas will hold on to the SRB for an additional 47 seconds prior to jettison.
Quite a
Let that
long
thing
time
go
to
in
hold
2
that
minutes
on.
and 19 seconds.
Now
that
1
extra
minute,
boost.
45 seconds into flight. RD-180 continues to perform well at full thrust. Pump speeds and injector pressures look good.
All right, stand by now for booster jettison.
And now coming up on 2 minutes into flight, the Atlas V vehicle now weighs just 1/2 of its liftoff weight.
That shows you how quickly it burns fuel.
RD-180 throttling down slightly as expected,
180
and
continues to
response
burn.
continues to look good. And standing by for SRP jettison shortly.
There's the SRP
Look to
jettison.
your
And we
screen,
have
you'll
good
see it.
indication
There it
of jettison
goes.
of the solid rocket booster. Atlas V has gone to Q Alpha limited closed loop steering. Vehicle body rates look good.
Now, the next major milestone is
Now 2
booster
minutes, 35
cutoff.
seconds into flight.
3 minutes and 25 seconds.
And the second stage RCS system press valve is opened. System now pressurizing to flight levels. Now 3 minutes into flight, approximately 1 minute remaining until VCO.
We're still
About main engine
not at
cutoff. 1 minute.
nowhere.
180 continues to look good at
They're about 30
Pump
kilometers
speeds and injector
below.
pressures look good. 3 minutes, 15 seconds.
About 30 kilometers below the Kármán line.
Time to cut that booster.
Vehicle body rates
Just a
look
few
stable.
seconds.
By the way, this is actually being, simulation's being created
3 minutes, 30
by
seconds
live
in.
telemetry from the rocket.
RD 180 now throttling to maintain a constant 5G acceleration limit. Engine response looks good. And we've begun boost phase chill down. Now throttling to a 4.6 G acceleration limit. Boost phase chill down is ended. Standing by for VCO. And we have
Just a few
VCO
seconds
booster
to
engine
get that
cutoff. Standing by for stage
Atlas
set.
Centaur separation.
And we have good indication of Atlas Centaur separation. We have pre-start on the RL-10. Standing by for ignition.
Next
Bit
major
delayed there.
milestone is the payload fairing that comes off.
We have ignition
Line
and
of
full
exposure
thrust on the
space
RL-10. Chamber pressure looks good. Body rates look good.
Bit of a delay on the animation.
And we have
but-
good indication of payload fairing jettison.
right now.
This first burn of today's mission will last approximately 8 minutes.
Now, depending on how long it is till the second burn, I may not stick around to watch just
And the
because I
RCS
do not
system
have
is
the
now
time.
performing initial firings to
I
warm
need
up the
sleep.
RCS motor catalyst bed. System response looks
I've only
good.
had 4 hours of sleep tonight, and well, some of you that might be perfectly fine, not for me. There was meant to be a
And
Cygnus
the
launch and that
Centaur
got
is
cancelled.
now 100 miles in altitude, 450 miles downrange distance, traveling at 11,800 miles per hour. 5 minutes, 10 seconds into flight.
Listen to the voice of Patrick Moore, ULA's launch commentator.
Centaur propellant utilization system has gone to closed loop control.
Flight is looking very good at this point.
And RCS system now performing periodic firing for thermal conditioning of the system. System response looks good. And initial review of booster performance shows the booster performed close to pre-flight predictions.
Yeah, there are occasionally issues when the previous, like when the first stage doesn't burn long enough. That happened with a
So the
Cygnus.
next major milestone will be the Centaur first main engine cutoff, and we've got about, let's say, 5 to 6 minutes before that. Let's bring Nick Woltman back in. What did you think about the liftoff and the flight and separation? Looked pretty good from here.
Yeah, as we were listening to Patrick there,
Centaur
we hear
has
all the mark
performed a
events,
roll.
hear all the mark events that were hit, and it seems like first stage performed very nominal, and RD-1E performed very well to get the first stage and Centaur on its way. So things are looking really well on this flight.
That Centaur performing a thrust of about 22,000 pounds and flying in what, Nick, has been described to me as a very exact entry into orbit. It's not going all the way around the Earth, but it does have to have a certain amount of precision because it's a partial orbit around Earth.
Yeah, this first burn will get Centaur and Solar Orbiter into a semicircular orbit as we come around the Earth, and then we will get ready for our main engine start number 2, and that will get us onto our transfer trajectory or transfer trajectory to head off toward the sun. So, yeah, Centaur has to perform very well on this first burn to get into that semicircular part orbit.
And it's a lot of power that's needed in order to get this thing going because she's going off into the deeper part of space, headed to the sun. We're getting a report of good performance so far, and that's excellent news. The team here, Mick talked about the reaction at this point for the launch team. We heard a little bit of a celebration behind us.
Yeah, the team doesn't really get too excited here, but it is a mark event of first stage separation is important. Getting main engine start is very important too, as you said, getting Centaur on its way. The Aerojet Rocketdyne RL-10 performing very well right now in this first burn. But the team is starting to look at their data, continuing to follow the Centaur in flight on real-time data. The booster team is looking at their data after first stage separated to make sure everything performed well. Doing a quick look of everything to make sure there's no anomalies in the flight so far. And so far we haven't seen anything or heard. So things are performing very well for this flight for Solar Orbiter on its way.
And that's good news, certainly for our European partners who are collaborating in this effort. The Solar Orbiter plans to unlock quite a few mysteries of the sun, as we have learned in the weeks rolling up to this. There's been a lot of time and effort that the teams have put into building this spacecraft, and then, of course, preparing for launch. Many years in the making. As we listen in now, we're getting a little more of an update. So far, continues to have good flight. This orbit, you were talking a little bit about this transfer orbit. It's using a planetary assist to get to its location ultimately, right?
I don't think it's getting too close.
Orbit and Solar Orbiter's on its way to the sun. Eventually they'll use the gravitational assist from Venus and to get into their orbit and trajectory heading for sun, so they can study the poles of the sun. And that, as we heard earlier from Josh, that'll be a couple years into the mission as they're doing that to maintain their trajectory and keep going. As you had said earlier, Centaur performing very well here on this first burn, and the teams are continuing to look at data and how it's performing. And we're happy to be at this point in the flight, but as you said, important to our ESA friends and Solar Orbiter and NASA, we still have a long way to go.
Ooh, something's not right. There's some feedback or something.
Follow this and see how Centaur performs to get our payload deployed successfully.
The spacecraft team certainly watching every moment of this very closely, as this is a very tense time for them, but no need to worry because at this point Centaur is taking her to the spot that she needs to go. And this Centaur, we were talking a little bit earlier, it's the last of its kind that is in flight now, but it's getting some upgrades. It's performing great, but what kind of improvements is it getting?
Yeah, I would say not Centaur mainly, but RL-10 for engine.
Right.
Yeah, it's the last single version of RL-10A that will fly. All vehicles in single stick from here on out will fly an upgraded RL-10C. However, the RL-10-4A will be used for human spaceflight. We need dual engine configurations on Centaur for human spaceflight to get astronauts back to the moon and then on to Mars. So RL-10-4A
You're not launching those on Centaurs.
Flown and used, but in a dual configuration instead of single. So we're very happy to fly this last 4A in this single configuration with Solar Orbiter. It was very well suited for this mission and to perform the task that seems to be done.
And that dual engine has to provide a lot of power when it comes to, as you mentioned, the astronauts who are going to be going back up to the International Space Station from American soil once Boeing gets the go-ahead to fly. That dual engine, that power is needed because it's going to be a lot heavier.
A lot heavier, and we want more energy and controllability from the Centaur. We also have that dual engine setup for redundancy and controllability there.
We're going to get an update in just a moment from
I
Yolande
think we're
Scott
almost at
Messer, but
Centaur
until
and
then
then
we
got
are tracking this flight and the successful flight that it has been so far. You're looking at a graphical representation of exactly what we're expecting the flight to look like, and everything is looking good at this point.
Matter of fact, Gerald, we just heard we've got main engine cutoff, so Centaur is shut down its engine for the first firing. Things look good, body rates have damped out, and everything looks good on this mission so far. So as we get ready to go, Centaur will continue to its mission by rolling and turning to the position it needs to get ready for main engine start 2, that transfer orbit or transfer trajectory that we talked about.
Yes, we went to
the engine will need to get ready and chill down and get ready to fire up. This coast period that we're in will be about 30 minutes to get into position before we have to fire up the Centaur engine again. That'll be about 38, 39 minutes into the mission that we will do that, and it will fire for roughly 6 minutes to get into that transfer orbit. So Centaur performing very well. Atlas, Centaur, and Solar Orbiter on its way. So things are looking really good.
This is a bit of a coast phase, you would describe.
Coast phase, yes. Centaur performing well and doing some maneuvers here in this coast phase. So.
All right, and so while we monitor the coasting of the Centaur stage, we will also be monitoring the launch teams to let you know when they fire that engine back up. But in the meantime, we are going to send it back to the ASOC with Joshua Santoro, who is joined by Scott Messer.
Sorry, I'm just going to end the video here. I don't have the time to wait because I need sleep. I'm Barton25, that was Launch Solar Orbiter. Goodbye.